Good morning and welcome to SimWorld Today, Wednesday, May 7th edition. It's Wednesday, which means, of course, we've got the man with all the answers, Sniper Jay, joining the program. Good morning, Sniper. We had a chaotic Hoopsteria Monday the last time I spoke to you. That's what we're talking this morning. All Hoopsteria. First off, though, most important, good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you, Marsh. How are you doing? I'm doing
I'm
well.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great because we are 24 plus 8. We're like 32 hours away from the tip-off of Hoopsteria at this point. Actually, a little bit less since it's an 11:30 tip-off tomorrow with Texas A&M and St. Mary's. I'm ready for this. It's my favorite part of the my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the basketball season is Hoopsteria. So we've got plenty to get to. We're going to talk most interesting or most dangerous matchup, maybe the biggest snub. But let's start, Sniper, with that right there. The biggest snub. Who do you think is a team that got put in a seeding that was far too low for what they can deliver?
And it's gonna sound funny, Marsh,
Okay.
but Purdue, and they drew a
Purdue.
bad matchup in Arizona. They're
Okay.
ranked. They got the seventh seed. They won the Big Ten championship. They beat Minnesota. They're 10-4. They're 18-1. This team deserves to be a top five seed, Marsh. I don't know how they got down to the seventh seed where they have to play a tough 10 seed.
They've got a very tough 10 seed on the docket where they're going to have to face off against Arizona and Corey Yams. Purdue, though, can I counter with this, Sniper? If I'm looking at the 6 and the 5 seeds, I don't know who. Let me flip it around then. Who are you taking out of a 5 or 6 seed if you're taking Purdue as a team that should have gotten a higher rank than 7? Is it like I'll give you here are the
I was
sixes? I mean, do you know? I mean,
Utah.
if Utah, you take Utah down, okay?
Yes, Utah got flat out embarrassed in the Pac-12 championship. Meanwhile, we have a champion that's ranked lower than them or got a seat that's lower than them. It doesn't make sense. The committee messed this one up, Marsh.
So Utah should be a lower seed. So do you think that Purdue is going to win against Arizona, or are you taking Arizona?
I got Purdue.
You got Purdue. Okay,
Purdue.
we're going to
I got
divulge
Purdue.
there. I've got Arizona. So you got Purdue for what reason? Pierre Dupont.
Yes, DuPont versus Yams. I want to see. I think DuPont has the uh the classiness and he acts more like a leader and a veteran. He's not your regular freshman the way he scores the ball. He's dynamic, he has the skill, and he's gonna put the ball in the hoop for this Purdue team just like he did against Minnesota. And this time it's gonna be showcased on the national level, and that's gonna do some good for Purdue scouting and moving on to the next round.
Okay, so you've got Purdue as your team. That was the biggest snub. I've got
Hmm.
Jackson State. They end up as a 6 seed. I had them when I did my personal seeding. I had them as a 5 seed. I thought they were a fantastic team. I thought they're getting no respect for beating Memphis in the in the conference championship game there. I thought that was a group that deserved to get the win and a higher seed. To be at 6 and getting a USC matchup, I don't love that. I I just felt like that's a team that if I'm looking like to your point, Utah ends up as a 6 seed. But I thought that Jackson State was better than Princeton. They finished higher than Princeton in the American Conference. They finished higher than Butler in the American Conference. They won the conference, and yet Jackson State is ranked lower than Princeton and Butler in the same conference that they finished as a better basketball team. I don't. What else did Jackson State need to do to be higher than those two teams? I can't believe that.
No love for the HBCUs, Marsh. No love.
None. And I'll be honest. Look, on my original shoot from the hip bracket, I picked USC. I have since gone back and changed that. I think I'm allowed to do that. I make my own rules, so I think I'm allowed to do that. Everything else, I'm leaving the same. But Jackson State, that they shouldn't be where they are. Where did you have Jackson State? Did you think that they ended up as a 6 seed is the right call, or do you think they should have been higher?
No, I actually has them at a 4 seed. I
as a
think
four
they're
seed.
yeah, I got them high, and the reason is their momentum, how they've been acting the last few weeks, the end
Mhm.
to end the season, and then to be in the new conference, make the championship game, and win the conference championship game. I'm showing this team love in my bracket and my seeding, just based solely on how they performed late in the season. Like, I'm not on the committee, obviously, but when you performing good, I I got to put my money with you. It's like the casino. You
Right.
know, if the person's at the craps table and they're hot, I got to go with the person that's hot.
Well, Jackson State was number 25 in the latest rankings, which is that would be about a six seed, five or six seed.
Mhm.
Um, the week before that, they were, I think, 21, 20, something like that. If they were just to stay there or don't fall four spots and they beat Memphis, I actually don't think a top four seed. I could have seen them getting to number 16. I guess is what I'm getting at. I
Mhm.
think this range of 5 through 7 is very competitive and very consistent with one another. But I just think Jackson State, bar none, was the most underappreciated, underranked team in all of hoops area. Let's go to the other side. What team did you see did we get ranked much higher than you thought they deserved?
March, this has to be favoritism. This has to be blue collar favoritism.
Okay.
Maybe the coach called into the committee before this even happened. But why is Michigan State
Mm.
a seventh seed? This makes absolutely zero sense, right? This team underperformed. They had a G League guy come back down. They had the rules say he could. G League guy come back down. Arguably their best player still underperformed. Didn't win the championship. Didn't even get close to the championship. I don't understand how they get this high seed. Now, if there was a 10 seed, perfect. But a 7 seed, that's a really good seed. That's playing winning basketball. That's showing people that you are head over heels better than the rest. Michigan State did not do that this year. I don't think they deserve this 7 seed.
I had them as an 8 seed coming in. I thought that, to your point, they were an inconsistent basketball team. They didn't really meet the expectation of a team that would be considered in the top 7. So I agree with you, and I think they've got one of. I think that while they got a higher seed, I think they got rewarded with maybe the toughest first round matchup, which we'll get to in a second. But before we jump ahead, I they have bits and pieces of times where they've been a really good basketball team, Michigan State. But to put them in as a 7 seed, I agree with you. I think it's too high. I think that at some point we have to say who's been consistent, who's been really good time in and game out. Michigan State doesn't fit that bill, and I do think that a 7 seed generally should be that. And I think the teams that got ranked ahead of them are in fact better than them. They are teams that ended up where they should be. Um, Michigan State is just too high. Do you think that they go down in the first round to Colorado?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I do. I
Well,
think Colorado sneaks past them.
okay, hold that thought just a bit because I want to get to that one. But first, I'll say the team that I thought was way too overrated, and that's Princeton. Princeton ends up as a 5 seed. They are rewarded with a matchup with Rutgers. I think that's a dangerous one. I picked Rutgers to win that game. Princeton has I've been on two sides of this fence with Princeton, or two sides of the coin, I guess, because I'm not really on the fence. I love the story. I love the story of Princeton. You go from the Ivy League, and it's in the conference. It's usurped only by Jackson State's late surge, but you're in the Ivy League, and you make this jump to the American, and then not only are you successful in the way that Jackson State was, at one point you were a top 10 team. You reached and tied the highest mark that this program has ever had all season long. That is fantastic. The problem with Princeton is their defense is all they have. Their offense is absolutely it's a liability in the clutch. And so looking at
Hmm.
Princeton and they end up as a 5 seed, I had them as a 6 seed. I did not have them as an exceptionally high 6 seed. But they get the 5 seed and they end up becoming the third best 5 seed, the third seeded 5 seed if we just go off because Texas was the number 3 ranked number 1 seed. I just don't see I don't know what am I missing that the committee must have seen, Sniper, that I'm not seeing with Princeton to warrant them as a 5 seed.
I, I mean, Marsh. I disagree with you. I think Princeton deserves this spot. I think they played their way
Okay.
in into that type of seat, and the reason is because of how well they did, like their non-conference. They were able to win big games. They were able to win. They started off the conference 4-0. Like this got the committee attention, and apparently the committee held this to heart. They felt this team could compete at a high level, and they did. Majority of the year, they had their downs, and when they were down, it was really low. I agree with you, Marsh. But they got what they deserved. They got that trap game, that 5-12.
They
That's a
yeah.
known trap game in Hoopsteria. So I think Princeton got exactly the seed they want, and they definitely got the matchup that they didn't want to see.
Yeah, you're going to have to deal with Dylan Harper, one of the best freshmen in all of college basketball. I'll just say I didn't think they were better, Princeton. I didn't think they were better than Jackson State, and that's a team that got ranked higher than them. I didn't think they were necessarily better than Butler, and that's a team that joined them as a 5 seed. That's the swap. Is I'm moving Princeton down to a 6 and give me Jackson State up as a 5 seed, and I go home
Hmm.
happy. But that one I'm not. So I'm curious. Then we got what 32 first round matchups. Which, in your opinion, is the most dangerous? And I'm not necessarily saying that it's like a Tennessee and Villanova 2-15 matchup, right? It can be that, but it could also be an 8-9 matchup that you think's unfavorable, a 7-10 matchup, a 5-12. So, what's the most dangerous first round matchup in your book?
The main one that jumps off the page to me, and I hate to say this, but I'm still Team Hokies. Is Virginia Tech, Virginia, right?
Mm.
In-state battle. I had my reaction live. Everybody saw my reaction, and I know what it is. I played in Hoopsteria. I've been to these sit downs. I've been on the team that didn't get in. I've been on the 16th seed, and I've been at the medium range seed. 1 in 16 game. It's always something special about that. And what makes this game even more special and scary is that these teams know each other like the back of their hand, Marsh. They're
Mm-hmm.
conference foes. Usually you see a team from, I don't know, a different conference, I would say, a
Mm-hmm.
lower conference at the 16th seed. But to see your nemesis, arch nemesis in this game is trouble. I think that is the outright biggest surprise game, shot game, whatever you want to call it in the first round.
And you know what's there's some poetic justice to that game where Virginia, of course, is the first 1 seed ever to lose to a 16 seed when they lost to
I remember that.
UMBC, right? In what,
Hmm.
2018, 2019? And now Virginia has a chance to put the other shoe on and upset a number 1 seed in Virginia Tech. There's a recipe there for Virginia. You've got Johnny Baldwin, who's probably a top 10 lottery pick this coming season. So if you're looking for a guy that can kind of erupt and disrupt things, Virginia does it. Virginia, I think they beat one of the top teams in college basketball. I'll pull up their schedule here as I'm thinking through it. I think it was let me see, who did they beat? Um, they beat Duke. They beat Duke on the road March 28th by 1 point. So they've proven they can beat number one ranked teams. And look, they've had their struggles with Tech. They lost both match or they lost the one matchup to them, but it wasn't a blowout 79-67. That was back on April 8th, a month ago. It's a dangerous matchup, but to me, the most dangerous matchup in the first round is Michigan State Colorado. I've been very high on Colorado. To your point of reacting live, I thought that was a terrible matchup live, and when we saw that one come through,
Hmm.
I think Colorado has been playing great. Are they overranked as a number 10? I don't think so. I had them as a 10 in my personal seating. I thought they were a really good basketball team, and I think they match up really well. I don't know that Michigan State has an option to slow down Brian Vaughn inside. He's been so disruptive against really, really good and better basketball teams than Michigan State in the Pac 12. I just don't see what Michigan State does here to answer Brian Vaughn.
We will find out here soon. I think and honestly, I know we're about to probably wrap things up here in March, but I think the whole Midwest region is what uh Rick would say cupcakes is sweet over there. And if I may add one more to this topic that we're talking
Please.
about, a game, I'm going this Mississippi State Michigan game.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. Most people think about upset. I'm not talking upset here. I
Mm,
know Mississippi State's going to win.
you know. Okay.
I just I just think the confidence they're going to get from this Michigan team when they beat them to 10-12 Pizarski and Phenom. Once they beat them, who is standing in their way to get to that coveted the quad in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago? We're talking about Texas, who might lose in the second round. They might not, but they'll have to see Texas. I think this Mississippi State team has shown throughout the year that they're more than capable of beating a team like Texas. And then at the bottom, we got that 2 seed. The only team I'm looking at, right? Georgetown. They have to get past Michigan State or Colorado next round, and then they will have to see, I don't know, South Carolina, a team that was good at points this year, still
Mm-hmm.
a SEC team, tough team. If Georgetown makes it all the way there, I think I still give Mississippi State the edge to go to the quad over Texas and Georgetown. I think this game is a trampoline for Mississippi State if they use it correctly.
How much is that alumni bias talking right now?
Actually, none, because I was
None.
shocked to see Mississippi State did like throughout the year. Okay, I am an alumni, maybe a little bit,
Maybe
but
a
throughout the
little
year,
bit.
they reached the top 10 bars, and the fact that they're sitting here in this sneaky 4 seed and they have a Michigan team that's okay now. Don't get me wrong, Michigan's a good team when they want to be. But this is a tough first game for them. But if they could get past this, I don't see the next couple matchups they fall into based off of strength of schedule and how they played in the SEC.
Well, look, I agree that Mississippi State is a team. I've got Mississippi State in the Super 16, and I agree with you that the Midwest region is the worst region. Not the worst region, the best lower seed region, right? I mean, I've got Illinois, that's a 9 seed. I've got Rutgers moving on, that's a 12 seed. I've got number 11 South Carolina, and I've got number 10 Colorado moving on. I don't have that type of upset chaos and granted the 8-9, is that actually an upset? I just don't have that same amount of chaos in other brackets.
Hmm.
And so I think that Mississippi State has a very real path. I think if they get to the Super 16, I don't think it's an easy win over. I think it's a very competitive game against Texas. To your point, I thought Mississippi State. I mean, this is a team that at one point in the season was top 10. They ended up
Hmm.
as a team that is top 15. This is a dangerous group, and they're sitting there as a 4 seed. I While I definitely am hearing, contrary to your belief, some alumni bias in there. I don't think that the take is all that far off because what are you going to get from Texas? Can you slow down Arthur Lattimore? And if you can, the pathway is wide open for Mississippi State. Memphis is not, and I have a 1 through 4 Super 16, but if you get through Texas or maybe it's Illinois or Minnesota, far would be shocked if it's Marquette, but Memphis has been a one-man show. Texas has been a one-man show. I continue to be huge on Georgetown, but Georgetown strikes me in the same way that Alabama does, where you don't have a star. You don't have a superstar in Georgetown. You have really good players, but Atlee Backman, not really a star. Jay Laster, not really a star. So I think that now does Mississippi State have a star? Maybe not, but I do think that they are better positioned than probably any of the other top 4 seeds are. Number 4 seeds are. I think it's a very, very dangerous crew. It's just a matter of who are we turning to as a Mississippi State squad? Who are we turning to down the stretch to get a big bucket when you need it? Because ultimately, that's really how a lot of these games are going to be decided.
That's true. That's very true, Marsh. You couldn't have said it better.
All right, and real quick, just as we're parting thought, you mentioned it, you've been in these types of games. What's it like in the build up to a hoops area matchup?
Man, the amount of energy, the amount of nervousness to play hoops there, especially the first round. I mean, it's insane. And it's a blessing. I mean, you have to know that being one of the 64 selected is truly a blessing, and you try to leave everything out there on the court. And the preparation is great, especially for the first game. It kind of dwindles down once you get that first game, but the preparation is great. The energy is great, and you hate to go out there and not put your best foot forward. So to all my players that's playing in Hoops Area starting tomorrow, go out there with high energy, put your best foot forward, and like everyone always says, all you have to do is find a way to win to keep dancing.
There we have it. All right, Sniper, it has been a true pleasure. I think we're going to hear plenty of you on some of these calls coming up this weekend, so we look forward to hearing that from you. Appreciate you coming on the show here for us today, and we will talk to you again next week in the aftermath of what will be, no doubt, a crazy, chaotic Hoops Area opening round. Appreciate you joining us. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.